Hey everybody, welcome to Tuesday. Yes, it is Tuesday instead of Monday's video because I had trouble with Monday's video, so I'm doing Monday's content today. I am reviewing The Suicide Squad, the movie that just came out, not Suicide Squad, that previous monstrosity of which we will never speak of again. This Suicide Squad, a truly awesome movie that should have been The Suicide Squad the first time around. Now, as usual, you guys know what I do with reviews. I do a spoiler-free thing with just, thumbs up, thumbs down. I think you can kind of tell I liked it already. But then I will go into a deep dive for people who have already seen the movie and want to compare notes. But for the people that just want to, get the basics, move on, and not have anything spoiled, I will do that. So if you like this sort of review, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. The downside of getting this out a day late is everybody's probably made up their minds already. But long story short, if you, like I do, like very splattery movies and zombie films, and kaiju films, and war movies like The Dirty Dozen and Platoon, this is a no-brainer. You have to see this movie. If you like superhero stuff, I still recommend it, just because the script feels, with a couple of exceptions that I will talk about in the spoiler bits, it feels like a cohesive concept that was written by a single team and had a planned beginning, middle, and end with proper structure and character arcs that didn't completely go to shit because of too many Cook's studio-demanded rewrites along the way. That alone made it a gem. I did not find a single person in the film miscast. It met most of my expectations, which is very rare for a superhero film, especially things that I am a fan of. And those of you who watch my content regularly and have seen some of my cosplay, I love D to Z, or as we say in Canada, Z list superheroes. I love the also rans. I love the second stringers. And Suicide Squad did not disappoint in that regard. It was just really well done, and you could tell certain actors came to work just with James Gunn, and that they recognized, is this Oscar bait? No, but the script was exactly what it was supposed to be. There was a lot of new, some complete reimagining of some of those, Z-list comic book characters. A lot of really crappy Batman villains had a massive rethink a la James Gunn. He did that with Guardians of the Galaxy. He's doing it again. Not crappy Batman villains in Guardians, but you know what I mean. And with notable exceptions, again, that I will talk about in the spoiler part, the overall plot, characterizations, and structure were spot freaking on. Mostly everybody had a part to play and played that part very well. It's hard to pick standouts in this movie because everyone was so good, and I think everybody is gonna have their favorites. But I went in ready to love King Shark because you guys know I love my monster characters, and I was super stoked to see what they did with Polka Dot Man. And Idris Elba is Idris Elba, when he's Bloodsport canceling the apocalypse. Idris Elba greater than Will Smith in that part, hands down. I'm gonna get his first name wrong. What's his name? John Kinnaman, the guy who plays Rick Flag. If you've seen John Kinnaman in anything else, you know exactly what to expect from him. Joel Kinnaman. I'm getting the name wrong, but you know, he plays a particular kind of heel and he plays a particular kind of face, and this is he flips back and forth. John Cena is very good in the part. Peter Capaldi is not in it very much, but the parts that he is in are great. It's a big cast, so don't expect you know, a ton of screen time for anybody. But the real surprise for me was Ratcatcher 2. And that was the one that I was like, what? You made Ratcatcher like lovable and endearing? And I am rapidly Googling the name of the actress that plays her because, oh my God, Daniela Melchior. She is fantastic. They actually created a female character with a bittersweet backstory that is not solely based on suffering, and she has strengths and she has weaknesses and she is a well-rounded character. Just take what James Gunn did with that, Marvel, and please just duplicate it. Or, you know, get him back and get him to oversee conceptualizing and then writing your female characters, because fucking crap, he makes it look easy, and really, if you treat female characters as people, it's not that hard. Okay? Like, she's hardly a paragon of virtue, but she's not a stereotype either. There was something really fresh in that. Sylvester Stallone is astounding as King Shark. Like, no joke. There is a real Guardians of the Galaxy format at play here. One could claim it is just the same thing. While there are obvious similarities because it is a team of Z-list superheroes, right? Some of the Guardians were D-list, I guess. You can't neatly slot the Guardians characters into the Suicide Squad characters. James Gunn is just really good at writing ensemble scripts. I would argue the script for Suicide Squad is better than the script for Guardians. The dialogue in Guardians was for the most part quite good, but the actual structure of the script in Suicide Squad was astoundingly good, especially the opening 10 minutes. The movie just starts. It is not a throwaway off-the-top action sequence that they just use to cut early for promos and give the audience, you know, cheap visceral thrills before they spend 40 useless minutes setting up the rest of the movie with an additional throwaway action sequence before we actually get to what the fuck is going on. It just starts. They set up the concept really fast. They are in. It reminded me of the way movies sometimes started in the 80s, even when audiences were allowing more breathing room and movies were not, 3 hours fucking long in the 80s. But the way he got into a superhero action film quickly, again, please just copy it. Even though James Gunn is using his own formula, right down to doing homages to his previous schlocky B horror movies, it felt like a fresh application, and it was a property that it really made sense with. So I highly recommend it, even though it is, very gory and it is extremely weird. But I recommended it to a friend of mine who really doesn't know a ton about Suicide Squad. And after she watched it, she messaged me and said, "What the fuck did I just watch? That was super weird and I loved every minute of it." So if you're not familiar with Suicide Squad, what the fuck did I just watch? It's super weird and I loved every minute of it is probably where you're going to be. If you are a fan of Suicide Squad, not the first movie, the comic book, this is where we do spoilers, okay? This is where I'm going to talk spoilers if you have seen the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, I strongly suggest you do not watch the spoiler part. It's better to go in and go through the twists and turns, even though the parts that aren't that great, when you hit a part that seems to sag and you're like, this movie's getting boring and this is stupid, wait. Like, wait, and it'll get better, okay? There are a couple scenes mid-film that I'm like, but that's a spoiler thing. So, if you plan to see the movie and you don't want spoilers, I recommend you don't want spoilers. Stop watching now. I will not be offended. Here, I'll do the help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching. Okay, go stop watching. If you've seen the movie, here's the spoilers. Okay. This pains me to say because I really wanted Margot Robbie to finally be in a good movie as Harley Quinn. She is in a good movie as Harley Quinn. She is the absolute most useless part of the film. To the point, you could remove Harley from the film completely and nothing broad strokes would change. And it really did feel like the studio was like, look, we want to put Harley Quinn in the movie. And James Gunn went, okay. But she is such a graft on that I forgot she was in it after the opening battle on the beach. And then I was like, oh yeah, Harley. And then there was a scene where everybody else is talking and she was interjecting. And there was one line where she just went, I am walking back and forth, you know, and I realized she is adding nothing to this scene. It was like Bruce Willis in The Sixth Sense. Like nobody's actually really interacting with him. Oops, did I just spoil The Sixth Sense? This is a spoiler part of the video. That being said, and the fact that her entire utterly ridiculous, I couldn't even suspend disbelief in a movie with Polka Dot Man, Captain Boomerang, the Javelin, and the Weasel. She does have a good energy. She's not my favorite Harley Quinn. She sounds like she's struggling too hard to not sound like Tara Strong or Arlene Sorkin instead of just ripping it and going for it. But she does have a very good energy. She does sell the scenes she needs to sell. The problem is her lead up is utterly ridiculous, and they could have done a much smarter form of stupid with her that would have matched the rest of the smart stupid in the rest of the movie. The whole thing of the dictator, a paranoid dictator of a third world country wants to marry her because she is a symbol of anti-Americanism made no fucking sense to me. It would have been better if she accidentally killed the woman he was supposed to marry, who he'd never met. It was a political marriage of convenience. She subs in, gets all the dress, everything like that, comes in, he's taken with her because she's not some brainless twit, and things can go on as is. The idea that anyone who's any part of an establishment would want Harley Quinn anywhere near them makes no sense, even in a country like that. It just, and I'm like, was there something in Birds of Prey I missed about this? And I went back and it's like, no, there was nothing really about Harley Quinn being a symbol of anti-Americanism. I don't know. I memory hold the Birds of Prey movie. It wasn't my thing. But still, the parts where she's allowed to be kind of goofy and funny and manic are good. I did like the fact that she actually is crazy. I believed her when she shot El Presidente. That was a part where I'm like, all right, all that stupidity was to get to this point. I could have done without hypersexualized Harley. I know that's something that some people love about the character, that, oh wow, this chick's really crazy, hot in bed. It's something I've never cared for. It feels exploitative because she is mentally ill. James Gunn has a bad habit of coming in at 1/10 Joss Whedon in terms of unnecessarily not great content regarding women. I do think this was better than the whore jokes at Gamora's expense in Guardians, just because Gamora is not a literal whore, so why would Drax call her a whore if his language is literal? Oops, because it's funny. No, it's not. It's funny for anybody who's not been called a whore under those contexts. Like, cut it out. But we know that James Gunn has kind of a shitlord past. You don't totally shake that. However, the female character that was clearly meant to be an integral part of it, he clearly has love for, which is what really saved the whole thing in that regard for me. Ratcatcher, what an amazingly nuanced character. She's a stealth bomber. She comes on slow. She does some really subtle things. And the character just blooms throughout the movie to the point that, she is kind, even though she's like messed up. And her backstory could have been milked for a ton of tragedy. And I really liked that he didn't go there. I liked that, you could ostensibly say that Ratcatcher 1, played by Taika Waititi, which is awesome, was a bad person, or at least a clearly flawed person. But they highlighted the love for his daughter. They highlighted the sort of magical elements of her very strange upbringing, as well as the fact that, he was an out-of-control drug addict. But it was really well handled, and it was sort of one indication of the human core that ran throughout an utterly extremely absurd movie. Outright, like, bad actions get punished in that movie. I know a lot of critics didn't like Savant killing the bird with the ball off the top, but the bird got revenge. I don't know why that was a problem. Like, that was, no, you were bad, Savant. Bird wins. Fatality, right? And I thought that was a good way to set up the fact that these are not heroes. These are actually bad people. They're in prison for a reason. They're being used as cannon fodder to take time off their prison sentence. And, much like showing the good, more noble elements in Ratcatcher, they took their time building Idris Elba as Bloodsport's nobility, which I thought was really well handled. That completely ratchet scene where him and his daughter are fighting off the top. Just, yeah, he's trash, right? And he had a fucking horrible, abusive, terrifying upbringing. And then it shows the person beneath that, right? And then, Peacemaker, John Cena, he's a deliberate dick. At first, I didn't think they made a series about this guy, but then I started getting it, and his rivalry with, Bloodsport, he's the heel, Bloodsport's the face. It got tied up in a little bow at the end. It was good. There were moments that felt like Tropic Thunder, which in a good way, in that, it's a movie that was prepared to go there in ways that I was good with. I want to see edginess that's smart and makes sense and doesn't sort of stop the movie dead for something. That's the thing. The movie just kept going. They had so many characters to set up. And, I expected a bloodbath going in. Some people were shocked by the opening just slaughter off the top. But I said to my husband going in, if Pete Davidson is not the first to die, I'm going to be annoyed until he's dead, because you only put Pete Davidson in a movie like this to blow his fucking face off. And I was not disappointed, right? Nathan Fillion was a wonderful cameo as the detachable kid. It was letting Nathan Fillion be at his best, which is charming and goofy and ridiculous and the butt of the joke, but he still somehow manages to maintain his dignity in utter ridiculousness, and bless him. They worked together in the past. He wasn't a big part, but that was so good. I like the fact that they didn't spend a ton of time setting up characters that did not need to be set up. Alien lady takes down helicopter. Guy with javelin is named Javelin, and so on and so forth. We don't fucking care. It's not important. It wasn't, subverting expectations. They cast people that you think, oh, that's a big name, they're going to be in it. Oh, Jay Courtney's back from the original, blah, blah, blah. No, they do the subverting expectations that way. They don't take a lot of fucking time. They establish really early, this is a movie where people are going to die. And I think the one that I was super impressed by was David Dastmalchian. I think that's how you pronounce his name. The only other thing I'd seen him on is the MacGyver remake, but as Polka Dot Man. None of that was Polka Dot Man from DC Comics. The only thing that remains of the DC Comics Polka Dot Man is the outfit, sort of. In the comics, he was a guy that just had a suit with polka dots and he pulled it off and he threw it on people. And there's an ongoing joke that they just keep killing him in the comics because he is in the running for the absolute, stupidest, most pathetic DC Comics book character ever. And James Gunn turned him into this really twisted but riddled with pathos guy who was abused by his mother, which I thought was a really cool, Norman Bates kind of thing that you don't expect to see the mother be the bad guy, and that was just so well used. And this is what I mean, that the movie was dumb as shit, but it was a smart kind of dumb. And of course, I've left Sylvester Stallone as King Shark, as, whatever name they gave him, Namanui or something like that. I don't know. He's King Shark. He will always be King Shark to me. But holy shit. I always felt like Sylvester Stallone did not get credit for his ability to do comedy when him and Schwarzenegger were going head to head doing comedy in the 90s. I thought he got a raw deal, and it's nice to see him back in a comedic role in an action movie so people can see that he is able to be funny and he has comic timing and he can do that job, because people don't see him that way for ridiculous reasons, but he was fucking hilarious. Every moment King Shark was on the screen was just pure love, and you actually felt bad for this shark man with a taste for human flesh. So well done, James Gunn. So well done, right? But the thing I liked the most about the movie is it felt like an old school movie where they set up pins early on to knock them down later. The ending did not feel satisfying because we had some big kaiju fight, though that's awesome. But let's face it, we're bored of the big CGI finale in action films. What made that work is that fight was a culmination of everybody's stories, throughout the movie. Again, you didn't need Harley for that fight. You could have had Ratcatcher jumping into Starro's eye, leading all the rats, and she's the one that's floating around watching them all swim by while you're hoping Sebastian makes it out okay, right? You didn't need Harley for that. But it's a culmination of everyone's stories. Bloodsport finally becomes the leader, so on and so forth. Polka Dot Man has that moment of I'm a superhero before he gets killed. And I think people would have been really surprised if Polka Dot Man had made it out of that movie. But, Rick Flag's death was appropriately shocking. I did not expect them to kill him off just because he's such an integral part of Suicide Squad, but that I maintain is why it worked. But I came out of the movie and every time somebody responded, I was just like asked about it. I just wrote nom noms with a King Shark gif. That's how tickled I was with it. It was a good time, but it was partially a good time because it didn't insult a thinking person who likes action movies' intelligence, but it also just had an emotional core that a lot of the Marvel films and Disney Plus series, in an attempt to be everything to everyone, didn't have. The nice thing about rated R movies is they don't have to be everything to everyone. You don't have to worry about kids. You don't have to worry about the dad character, the mom character, the little boy character, and the little girl character. They don't have to be that, but they have to appeal to those family members. That's the Disney formula. You don't need the boy character and the girl character. And you don't even need the mom character and the dad character, because let's fucking face it, rated R movies are made for young adults, essentially, traditionally. So James Gunn could just write a script for people the way the Deadpool movie, Ryan Reynolds and company, could write a script for people. And that's why both of those movies were exactly what they should be. Like I said, with some notable exceptions with Margot Robbie. And again, it really pains me to say that Harley Quinn was the weakest part of that film. But on the one hand, it's not that she was weak. Stupid plotline aside, in a lot of other movies, she probably would have been a highlight. It was just the rest of the movie was so good that she felt uninspired by comparison. And, maybe that's because the character has too much baggage, there's too much expectation, whatever. It felt like 20 minutes of film to give her a new costume, which I know, the original costume she was given for the original Suicide Squad movie was not good. It had nothing to do with the original Harley. She was in her underwear and a baseball shirt. I know it got cosplayed up the wazoo, but that's just because it was cheap and easy to do. And yeah, some women do find it fun to just have their ass hanging out in a cosplay. Nothing wrong with that. But compared, her name's Harley Quinn. Why is she wearing a baseball shirt, right? At least she was in red. Fine, instead of that weird pinky color. But yeah, I hope it'll get a sequel. I hope they use her better in the sequel and she doesn't feel like a graft on. And there's a lot of different ways a sequel can go. Now, we're going to be waiting a while for the sequel because James Gunn has to go make Guardians 3. But maybe we'll eventually get one. And, hopefully it'll be... It'll be a different kind of good. Like, I don't want him to just go back and make the same movie. I want him to use homage a different genre with the second movie. And there are ways to do it. If James Gunn's people are interested in hearing my ideas, you know where I am. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I have not enjoyed a movie like this. I don't remember. Maybe it was Deadpool. You guys know I'm normally cranky about this stuff, but it was a really good time. So I'll do the Patreon thing again because we're at the end. But please, I'm interested. Well, watch the spoilers in the comments. But maybe we can talk about it on Twitch or something like that tonight. But help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching.